Hello. I believe I am live. I know there's always a bit of a delay before it actually happens, so bear with me. Yeah, here we go. Welcome to episode 2 of Behind the Mask. I'm Phoenix, and I want to share a little bit about the boogies that I've been battling this week. Um, for those of you who don't know what the boogies are, you probably have your own word for it, but yeah, those voices that come in to your mind to like beat you up when one is feeling down. So I'll use I statements. The boogies are those thought patterns and those thought forms that come in, that infiltrate my mind when I'm feeling down. And this week has been a really annihilating week. Um, yeah, last week and the week before, I was feeling really inspired, really enlivened after my rebirth. And what goes up must inevitably come down, even though there's a part of me that just loves holding on to the highs and to those blissful moments, which are really really welcomed. I really really welcome them, especially in the face of all of the destruction and the dismantling that's been happening in my inner world over the past couple of months. Though um yeah, I had some grace, some reprieve, and I'm so grateful for that. And this week in particular it's like I felt like there was a sledgehammer that came to remind me, like, oh yeah, there's still more. And maybe there's always more. And I guess that's part of the journey that one chooses for oneself. I'm certainly not one to hide or run from what emerges, what arises. And so the theme for my this episode today is blame it on the boogies. And like I said, the boogies are those thought patterns, those negative thought patterns that I'm not good enough, to like you're a fraud, you're a piece of shit, you're still swimming in this stuff, this stuff is still bothering you, or oh, you haven't really come so far, or, nobody loves you, you're so old, you're ugly, nobody wants you. I'm sure you have your own versions of those thought patterns that can be really debilitating at times. And I find that the more I strengthen my container and the more I strengthen my mind, my higher mind, that part of me, that the witness mind, the one that can like is buoyant, that can float above the denser, those energies that hold so much more gravity. The more I strengthen that higher mind, the more resilience I have in the face of these boogies. Though this week it's like I'm premenstrual and there's a full moon in Scorpio upon us, a super moon in Scorpio. And I'm not an astrologer, though I do love following astrology, and it's been a really beautiful anchor for me over these past couple of months and years. Though these past few months I've gotten really more involved with them. um, and yeah, this full moon in Scorpio is like it's a water sign, and if you think each of the water signs has like a different characteristic, and Scorpio is kind of like, I described it to somebody today, like the Loch Ness Lake. It's like this big, dark, deep body of water that has a lot of that kind of underbelly, underworld material. And this being a super moon that's coming, it's like even bigger and closer to the earth. It's like drawing all of this stuff out of the depths. In Taurus season, which the way that I interpret it is like our foundation. So all of the stuff that kind of all of the faulty parts of our own inner foundation, they're like getting really tested. And yeah, on Tuesday, I will say I had this like real curveball thrown at me. Yeah, all personal relationships, like there's some relational dynamics that I'm moving through that are quite painful and quite challenging. And I got this like curveball thrown at me where this person that I've been like taking some conscious space from, like showed up in this group that I'm in, and I had this total meltdown and like went into fight or flight, and just all these old wounds came up and these fears came up, and I just, that part of me that just wants to like run away, like, oh, I need to get out of Melbourne, or I need to get out of Australia, like get me out of here. I'm sure you have your own version of what that might look like when you get when your traumas get activated. um and yeah, I spent a whole day on Tuesday just like under my covers, tantruming, screaming, crying, like letting all this out. And when I'm that vulnerable, there's, yeah, that's like when the boogies come. It's like, oh, she's down. Let's go and fucking beat her up. And I know those voices so well. Obviously, they've been my friends for my whole lifetime. Yeah, so I've been navigating them, and over these past years, as I've been becoming more familiar with them and understanding how they, like, where are the leaks, where are the cracks that they get in through. I know that when I'm feeling really vulnerable, like premenstrual, or I'm feeling I've just had a conflict with someone, or some insecurity rises, or like a piece of, some shame or guilt arises, it's like I become open, and the boogies start kind of flying in. um what are they called? Oh yeah, one of my friends, Sabina, she calls them the Dementors. So it's those of you who know Harry Potter. um yeah, they're like the Dementors. They come in and they suck us all, suck us dry of our life force. And yeah, there's just some days that I'm gonna get eaten up. I'm going to be food for the boogies. And that was my Tuesday. I was definitely food for the boogies. And I felt very disempowered. And it was like right on I was right on the cusp of starting a new course on Wednesday. And the course is called The Hollow Bone. And it's all about ritual and ceremony and trusting in spirit and hollowing out and working with prayer and working with ritual. And, on Tuesday, I was just like, F that stuff. None of it works. Like, I give up. I don't want to do any of this stuff. I'm such a fraud. I don't want to show up and do this thing. Who am I to talk about being the hollow bone? And yeah, like all these voices, and then there's this other voice, that this the resilient part of self, the higher mind, the higher self, that's like, oh, this is so great, this is all part of the process, and getting you ready to be the channel to share what it is that you're going to be sharing in this course. And these two parts of self, battling, literally like a battle. And I'm sure many of you know what that feels like. And so, yeah, I showed up on, I made it through Tuesday. Um, I had my first ukulele lessons on Tuesday night, and part of me was like, oh, I'm not going to go. I feel so shitty. I just want to lay in bed and watch Netflix. Um, though this part of myself, the resilient, loving, self nurturing, caring part of myself was like, no, F that. You have made a commitment to learn ukulele. Go to your class. So in the pouring rain, I like drove to Hurstbridge. It's pouring. I don't know where the venue is. I'm like walking around in the rain, getting wet, but I'm like, I'm gonna go to this ukulele lesson. And I did. And I felt good about myself. That was the one real good thing that I felt I accomplished that day, in amongst being kind and loving towards myself by watching Netflix. Or I don't think I watched Netflix that day, but I just was in my robe under my covers with my prayer stick just close to me, giving me some comfort. Got to talk to some friends, and like I said, have a good cry with my housemate. But then the next morning, I had the launch of this course, and I felt really vulnerable and um, really insecure and really fragile and tender, and like part of me wanted to just cancel it because I felt so bad the day before. But again, it's like the lower mind and the higher mind, these two parts of self that are like constantly dancing. The one that knows, the one that's like continues to strive forward towards her dreams, her visions, her goals, the one who's connected to her soul purpose, and the outdated version of self that is like, kind of balancing, we're balancing, recalibrating together, because this older version of myself is still me, and how do I bring her along and let her know that she's safe and she's held when she's having um, a meltdown, which was that Tuesday. And so yeah, I showed up to the class on Wednesday and was honest about where I was the day before, and kind of got out of my own way and was able to really connect to the content and connect to this channel that I've been working with and clearing out in my through my own like humble excavating of my soul and my psyche. And it was a beautiful class. Yeah, and then I had a one-on-one client right after that, and again I was like, oh, I can't show up to hold space for this person who wants to have this deep process. Like, I don't know if I can show up and do it. But it's like, yeah, you can, I because you just did it. Like, you just did it for yourself, so of course you can show up and hold space for this other person. And I did, and it was such a beautiful session, and I was so proud of this person for going so deep. And again, like, I feel like in part they were able to go so deep because I had given, I continue to give myself permission to go this deep. And the deeper I go, the deeper I can take others. And the further I go, the further I can take others. But again, it's like we're always our own guinea pigs, or like our own pioneers. We're pioneering this unknown, uncharted terrain for ourselves. And then we can show others the pathway, or help them find their own pathway. But yeah, then the boogies came back. This has been a week of boogies because I'm gonna blame it on the boogies. Blame it on the boogies. Gonna blame it on the boogies. But I'm also gonna kind of acknowledge that there's a bigger process happening. And I've spoken to a few friends, and they've let me know that they've also been going through some deep stuff. And I've been like desperately looking up astrology to find out what's going on in the stars. I mean, I could name a whole bunch of stuff like Pluto, which is the last planet that's like going into retrograde, which is the underworld. So, there's a lot going on. We're in that portal, and it gives me a piece of, like, it gives me peace when I can see that I'm not the only one going through it. It gives me courage, and it gives me strength. Um, yeah, so that's here I am, on the other side. Well, I'm still kind of battling with the boogies, but the thing is, it's being able to meet these voices, these boogies, these thought patterns that are like, but it's almost like um, the more resilient I become. If you had said that to me on Tuesday, I would have like told you to like go, piss off. Though here I just had a session with my coach, who's such a brilliant cheerleader for me. Really helps me to see things more clearly for myself. So yeah, And what he says to me is like, yeah, like bring on the boogies, like bring on those uncomfortable situations, because the more you are faced with those uncomfortable situations, the more resilient you'll become, the more the phoenix will rise. And I'm just like, all right, let's chill out a bit. I need some grace at times. This week has definitely felt a bit overwhelming. Like my nervous system has felt really frayed, and I've needed to have some numb out time. Like, yeah, I've been, I found like this really light and fluffy show on Netflix that has been my kind of, my little, yeah, kind of calming respite this week. Um, and, um, and that's okay. Sometimes we need to just give ourselves a break, especially those of us, myself, I'm talking about myself, that, we really, we're like in it to win it, and I'm definitely in it. When in it to win it, it doesn't sound exactly what I mean. It's like I'm fully in. I'm fully in for my life journey. I'm fully committed to surrendering the outdated versions of myself to really fully embrace and embody like this, yeah, higher self, this soul filled version of myself who knows that she's whole, who knows she's complete, who knows that those wounds that I've carried have actually, they're like the greatest gift for my becoming who I came here to be. And those boogies are a part of it. It's like they are the elements that test us, that test me. The way the wind kind of supports the tree to set its roots down deeper, or the fire that ignites and like opens up the seed pods so they can sprout and grow. Like, nature's such a beautiful metaphor for, it's not even a metaphor, it's such a beautiful mirror, such a beautiful reflection for who we are and how we are um, engaging in this reality that we live in. So I want to thank those boogies, even though there's another part of me that wants to, tell them to just fuck off. And yeah, really trusting that this is part of the journey. There's nothing wrong here. There's nothing wrong with these voices. If anything, they give me more insight into where there's still room to grow. And like they give me a choice. They present me with a choice. These boogies present me with a choice when they kind of enter, like the dementors come in and they're like when they enter into the field of my perception, it's like I can choose to let them feast on me and fall into kind of victim mode, or yeah, victim role, or just complaining about how fucking shit life can be or is. Or I can make a different choice, put on a psytrance song and dance, or go for a walk, or sit at my altar and pray, call a friend, which is what I did this week. I called my housemates and left them a message of me crying, sharing the drama, and just saying I really needed help. And yeah, my housemate, God bless him, left his home office, came up and just held space for me to have my rage fit and cry. And so yeah, it's like, how do we choose to show up in the face of the boogies? Because we ultimately, I'll speak on my behalf, ultimately I'm the one that's kind of behind the helm. I'm here at the steering wheel. And when those boogies start coming, it's like I can just be in the like, let them totally annihilate me, which sometimes I'm going to trust that it's necessary, because then again, like I said, I can see where my defense is, or like where my my resiliency is still being worked on. Like my fortification is still kind of can have some more attention placed on it. And also I get to learn how to like navigate when they're coming at me as well, by making choices that are life affirming, that making choices that are in support of me growing and strengthening, and being there in the face of these like darker thought forms that are trying to take me out. Because what kind of a life could I or any of us live when we are just totally, yeah, like own ourselves fully, claim ourselves fully, love ourselves fully, those tender parts, not making those tender parts wrong, which is what the boogies try and do. It's like clearly I'm being activated, re traumatized, something is arising. I am like, there's like an old bodily function, bodily pattern that's arising, like an old trauma response that's arising. And that's part of growing, is how I can learn to work with that old trauma response, and reshape it and reformat it so that that trauma becomes integrated and a part of the wholeness that I am. And so, yeah, the boogies kind of show me where those traumas still are, where those soft, squishy bits still are. And I'm not advocating for being like a fortress. No, if anything, I'm advocating for like allowing ourselves to, yeah, to really be touched so that we can more acutely see where we are in our own journey. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. um, the boogies, they're real tough buggers, you know though they're also some really great teachers. How do we welcome our wounds to be our greatest gifts? How do we allow our wounds to um, strengthen our willingness and our capacity to keep showing up in life and in the world? Because life's going to test us. That's kind of what happens, even though I don't like calling it a test, because I've never really liked school. Definitely didn't like tests. So rather than being like, oh, life's against me, yeah, like I choose to keep being a stand for life affirming thoughts, where life is actually on my team, and life is supporting me to be the best version of myself, and life is supporting me to manifest or to welcome into my life all of my heart's greatest dreams and visions and desires. So then there's these kind of, um, how do I call them in a way that is like, yeah, kind and loving and not bashing them, but there's just these other parts that have been exiled, that are trying to find their way back in. And the way that they've been making or had made their way in the past was by beating me up. But now, how can I welcome them in and be like, oh, hey, what's up? I see you. I see you. Oh, okay. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a run. Let's put some psytrance on and dance. Um, Come dance with me, rather than allowing myself to be preyed upon by the boogies. Yeah, I want to befriend the boogies. So, blame it on the boogies is I call this episode "Blame It on the Boogies," because that's when I would feel them in the past. When I first started recognizing these boogies as they were working with me, I would have a like, blame it on the boogies, blame it on the boogies. I think it, yeah, blame it on the boogies, and I'd be like, oh, they're here, blame it on the boogies, just so that I could acknowledge that the boogies were here, and where are the places that the boogies come in from? I know that when I'm like over scrolling in Facebook and kind of comparing myself to other people, the boogies come in. or if I eat a lot of sugar or a lot of fatty foods and I feel really bad about myself, the boogies come in. If I overindulge and watch like 4 episodes of Netflix like 4 nights in a row, probably the boogies might come in. Or if I go and I see somebody that's still like triggering, or I don't have the conversation that I want to have, or I hold in some of my truth and the boogies come in. It's like, where are those portals, those entry points that the boogies enter? And how can I put my awareness? I had a friend once say, like, put sentinels there, like at the portals where the boogies come in. And it's like, if I'm gonna be on Facebook for an hour, maybe I've got like my boogie sentinels there that are kind of watching. So as soon as I can like feel the boogies come in, I could be like, oh yeah, time to get off Facebook. Um, and Facebook for me has definitely been one of the greatest entry ports of the boogies. But I've got some magic spells on my Facebook now. Facebook Purity, if you haven't heard of it, it's a great app that kind of eliminates ads and news feeds and all the things that you might not want to see. You can cater your own Facebook feed. Facebook Purity, donation only, pretty awesome. Um, yeah, I don't know them. I just know that it works for me. That's really helped curb a lot of the ways that the boogies have come in. So I've been really diligent. What are the things that help to fortify um, my own container and like keep those portals, those entry ports where the boogies would normally come in a little bit more robust, by taking good care of myself, eating good food, having good conversations, not hanging out with people that um, activate some of my old habit patterns, or those negative thought forms that's I'm still working through. It's like, can be seen as a bit of control, though we're all a bit controlling. So if we're going to exert any control, I believe, exert control in a way that is supporting me and nurturing me to grow, like putting a greenhouse or a little um, fence around my garden so that the rabbits don't munch everything. That's kind of what I feel I've needed to do lately, is just kind of create a really safe environment so that this tender, vulnerable self that's been getting smashed open can grow and thrive, knowing full well that the fence isn't always going to be necessary, and I don't want to have fences up because I actually want to be in deep communion with life. Though as of recent, I've really felt like I've needed to kind of keep myself a little bit more protected, because there's something really precious here that's been growing, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with acknowledging there's this precious one here that's needed a little bit of extra safety and security and stability so that she can grow. Um, and I can also feel and touch and taste little glimpses that, take these little fences away, like maybe one piece at a time, and see how strong I've become against the boogies, or some of those old stories that have kept me really down, disempowered and debilitated. So I'm gonna leave it there for now. I don't know if anybody was here watching, because I don't always know how to work this live, so I can't see if there's any comments. But if you're here with me, thank you for being here with me. I will be back next week. At least I will aim to. I'm not going to commit to anything because I'm just getting started. Though I do have a list of people that have mentioned they want to come on to my show and share vulnerably and openly, and kind of take their mask off and reveal what's beneath that mask. So if that's something that you're interested in doing at some point, just send me a little PM. You don't have to be famous or anything, just human, just willing to be real and show up and share your story, because I think our stories are really powerful and really empowering and inspiring to our fellow brothers and sisters. I find that when I can see myself reflected through somebody else, I feel a lot better about myself. Um, so let's inspire one another to see ourselves more clearly, to welcome those wounds as our gifts, and to to accept those tender, vulnerable bits as like these precious, precious, precious jewels that, we're here tending to and lovingly sharing with one another in the world to seed this infosphere with our love and with our care and with our faith and our desire to to paint our reality with the purity, the tenderness of our precious hearts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. Have a beautiful weekend. Um, Good luck with this full moon energy. Yeah. I'll post a little link of some astrology if you're interested to do a little more reading. Um, yeah, and I'll be doing a free full moon ceremony on Tuesday morning if you want to come and dance and pray with me and Sabina and some of our other kin from around the world who join us. So yeah, bless, bless.